Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. Getting ready to start? Well, we are ready to start, and we're gonna go ahead and review our headlines. Today on Before Coffee. Like a blowtorch. Mediterranean gripped by wildfires as blazes spread in the Croatia and into Croatia and Portugal.
President Biden honors Emmett Till.
UK in action let Wagner Group flourish and grow, says MP.
And the UPS strike is over.
On Wacky Wednesday, innovative solar cycle path near Martinsdijk yields almost nothing.
Also on Wacky Wednesday, you Otter not surf there, and the old man and the cheese. Today on July 26th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. I'm gonna do sports guy for now.
Oh, right. You're going to do sports guy. Then.
Sports guy!
On Wacky Wednesday.
Here's our baseball scores. The Lucky Brewers lost to Cincinnati Reds 2-1 or something like that. I don't even know what the scores are. All right, you go ahead.
Well, before the wackiness, let's go ahead and look at how the climate crisis is currently burning up the entire Mediterranean. This is from Helen Sullivan and agencies on The Guardian. Wildfires were burning in at least 9 countries across the Mediterranean as blazes spread in Croatia and Portugal, with thousands of firefighters in Europe and North Africa working to contain flames stoked by high temperatures, dry conditions, and strong winds. At least 34 people were killed in Algeria, where 8,000 firefighters on Tuesday battled blazes across the tinder-dry north. Fires burned in a total of 15 provinces, leading to the evacuation of more than 1,500 people from their properties. Witnesses described fleeing walls of flame that raged like a blowtorch, destroying homes and coastal resorts and turning vast forest areas into blackened wastelands. The Algerian online news site TSA quoted a national meteorological office as saying temperatures had reached about 50 Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit in some regions. Among those killed were 10 soldiers trapped by flames in Beni Kisla and Bajaya province, according to the Defense Ministry. Official APS news agency reported on Monday night that 34 people had died across several regions. Local media reflected anger about the latest deadly fires. TSA news site asked, in view of all these measures, why couldn't we avoid the disaster? Fanned by strong winds, fires forced the closure of 2 border crossings with neighboring Tunisia, where blazes had especially fierce in the northwestern Tabarak region. More than 300 people were evacuated from the coastal village of Melaula by boat and overland, and firefighters were still battling blazes on Tuesday in the areas in the northwest, Bizerte, Silania, and Beja. Firefighters struggled to extinguish flames, destroying forest and citrus and hazelnut groves. The official TAP news agency reported on 1 death, that of the school principal who died of asphyxiation from a fire in Nafsa in the northwest. Wildfires also broke out in the woodlands of Latakia, a governorate on the Mediterranean in northwestern Syria. Firefighting teams are working to put out the massive wildfires that had broken out in the woods of Latakia northern countryside, which are still uncontrolled until now, the North Press Agency reported, firefighters saying on Tuesday, with helicopters used to extinguish fires. Italy has been hit by violent storms and wildfires. At least 7 people were killed on Tuesday after storms in the north and wildfires in Sicily. Among those killed were a 16-year-old girl. The Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, said the girl died when a tree fell on her tent during a scout camp near Brescia after high winds and torrential rain overnight. Milan residents reported torrential rain and hail on Tuesday morning, while flood streets and uprooted trees, some of which fell on the parked cars. While the north was drenched, the heat wave across the south persisted, with temperatures of 46.6 Celsius or 117 Fahrenheit recorded in the eastern Sicilian city of Catania on Monday. The Civil Protection Minister Nello Musumeci wrote on Facebook, what we are experiencing in Italy, one of the most complicated days in recent decades. Rainstorms, tornadoes, and giant hail in the north, and scorching heat and devastating fires in the center and the south. Climate upheaval that was hit our country demands us all a change of attitude. Greece has also been particularly hard hit this summer, with authorities evacuating more than 20,000 people in recent days from homes and resorts in the south of holiday island of Rhodes. In France, nearly 100 firefighters are trying to contain the wildfire in municipalities of Cannes, Saumur, and Villeneuve-Loubet, close to Nice International Airport, officials said on Tuesday. Bouches du Rhône department on Tuesday was placed under a red alert, with authorities seeing a very high risk of wildfires. More 300 firefighters were battling to contain the fires near the city of Arles. In Croatia, winds are so strong the firefighting aircraft cannot take off. Local media reported firefighters battle wildfires are spreading just south of Adriatic Sea of Dubrovnik, a tourism destination, late on Tuesday. Winds brought disaster to neighboring Montenegro, where 2 people drowned and several were injured when strong southern winds hit the coast, 4:30s in towns of Ulcinj and Petrovic said. A rapidly spreading wildfire at the center of Spain's island of Gran Canaria on the Tuesday prompted authorities to remove several hundred villagers, cut 3 roads, and deploy firefighting helicopters. In Portugal, usually one of the European countries worst hit by wildfires, according to EU data, hundreds of Portuguese firefighters scrambled on Tuesday to put out flames near the popular holiday destination of Cascais, with strong winds complicating efforts. The wildfire started in the mountainous area of Sintra Cascais Park, which covers about 56 square meters or 146 square kilometers west of Lisbon. More than 600 firefighters were brought in, and water-bombing planes also battled the blades, but had to stop operating as the night set in. The mayor of Cascais, Carlos Cariadias, said gusts of up to 337 miles per hour were the biggest challenge, as some people had been evacuated as a precaution. So there we go. Those are all the countries that are currently on fire.
Wow.
Sadly, I don't see any signs of it here. Skies are clean. Here, there's no smoke, even though Europe is a much smaller place than the U.S. I guess the wind's going the other way, so it's not.
Yeah, all that stuff is here south and west of east of you, right?
Yeah. So people here probably have no idea unless they're reading the news.
In our hot
giant
planet,
fire, happening right now. So,
well,
I mean, good
if
luck.
they were planning on going on vacation to Greece, they know about it. I'll tell you that.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree, it has been very windy. Even Robert, who's obviously lived in the Netherlands his entire life, has said it's never been this windy. I'm not sure if climate change affects the wind, but it's
sure does.
Constantly windy here in the Netherlands. It's never been this windy, and if it's windy here, it's windy everywhere because it's a global movement. So
everyone knows it's windy.
All right.
That's a song, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right, in serious tragedy news, well, President Joe Biden honors Emmett Till and his mother with new national monument. This is from ABC News. Let's just go ahead and say ABC News. Oh, here we go. Chiara Alfonseca and Fritz Farrow. Fritz Farrow. Boy, you better be a reporter with a name like Fritz Farrow. The monument will span several locations in Illinois and Mississippi. President Joe Biden signed a proclamation Tuesday to establish the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument. Till, the black 14-year-old who was lynched in 1955, which would make him, yesterday was his birthday, 82 years old. So he would be 82, basically roughly Joe Biden's age. Roughly Mick Jagger's age. Think about that. Okay. His murder highlighted the racism and brutality faced by black people throughout the U.S. It's hard to believe I was 12 years old and I just, I know no matter how much time has passed, how many birthdays, how many events, how many anniversaries, it's hard to believe this, Biden says. Today, on what would have been Emmett's 82nd birthday, we had another chapter in the story of remembrance and healing. Biden Biden added. That's hard to say. Biden was introduced by Till's best friend and younger cousin, Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr. Parker was 16 when Till was lynched and the last surviving witness to his abduction, according to the White House. When I was overwhelmed with terror and fear of death, I could never imagine a moment like this, said Parker. Parker was among other members of Till's family, as well as civil rights leaders, historic preservation advocates, and more in attendance to the proclamation signing. This monument will also honor Till's mother's Mamie Till Mobley, a renowned civil rights advocate. Till was laid to rest in an open casket at his funeral by his mother to demonstrate the horrors of his brutal murder in order to push forward the movement for equal rights for Black Americans. This new monument will protect places that tell the story of Emmett Till's too short life and racially motivated murder, the unjust acquittal of his murderers, and the activism of his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, who courageously brought the world's attention to the brutal injustices and racism of the time, catalyzing the civil rights movement, according to a White House official. Why do they say that at the end? It was a speech. The monument will be composed of several sites related to Till's life and murder, including the Roberts Temple Church of God in Christ in Chicago, where Till's funeral service was held. Gray Ball Landing in Mississippi, where it is believed that Till's body was recovered from the Tallahatchie River, will be the second location. The Tallahatchie County 2nd District Courthouse in Mississippi, where Till's killers were acquitted by an all-white jury, will be the third. The designation reflects the Biden-Harris administration's work to advance civil rights and commitment to protecting places that help tell a more complete story of our nation's history. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters Monday. As we talk about the civil rights movement, as we talked about Emmett Till's story, this is American history. It is the broader story of Black oppression, their survival, and their bravery in America, she said. All of that is connected. On March 2022, Biden signed the Emmett Till anti-lynching act into law, making lynching a hate crime under federal law. Lynchings were used to terrorize the Black community in the U.S., predominantly in the South, from the 1880s to the 1960s. Biden's most recent move comes amid legislative changes and amid restrictions on educational programs in schools related to race in conservative-led states across the country. For example, Florida recently changed educational guidelines on Black history amid the enforcement of the Stop Woke Act. Ooh, we're going to make people not learn things that make them uncomfortable. Which places restrictions on lessons or training on race in schools and the workplace. One change made to state education standards encourages curriculum to include how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied to their personal benefit. Oh yeah, picking that cotton, that was really, really beneficial. I'm so confused what the hell that even means.
An example of that is blacksmiths.
Oh
you
yeah!
never learned to be a blacksmith if you weren't a slave. You're welcome.
Yes, you never were in self-reliance unless we cut off one of your toes. Yeah. Don't you understand that? Don't you remember the times we whipped you in front of your family until you couldn't even barely breathe? You were learning self-reliance. Anyway, back to the story. We must remember and teach our full history. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's do this again. At the Tuesday proclamation, Vice President Kamala Harris slammed such efforts. We must remember and teach our full history, even when it is painful, especially when it is painful, Harris said. Today, there are those in our nations who would prefer, since people can't edit anymore, I'm pretty sure she said prefer to erase or even rewrite the ugly parts of our past. In the sentence it says refer. Supporters of such educational restrictions say the legislation bars lessons that may make students feel shame or guilt based on race. Critics say the legislation infringes upon the ability to teach nuanced lessons on racial history. I'll put an extra word in there. We should know everything, the good, the bad, the truth, who we are as a nation. That's what great nations do, and we are a great nation, Biden said, for only the truth comes healing, justice, repair, and another step forward towards forming a more perfect union. And that is your story. And I would just like to point out that you really don't have to feel guilty just because really bad stuff happened in the past. I don't know where that comes from. I never felt guilty about learning from the past. You know what? I learned about tragedies that happened in the past, and it was white people being cruel to black people. I don't feel guilty. I had nothing to do with it. So why would children feel guilty about it in school?
The only thing it should teach you is,
makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Like that. That's the only thing it should teach you. You should go, oh shit, that's awful. I'm gonna make sure I never act that way ever. That's the only thing it should teach you, especially as a white person, to never do those things. That's the only thing.
Or any person.
Yeah.
Why would anybody feel guilty about any of this? They just got to know that it happened. I don't know why we got to pretend things didn't happen. It's the stupidest thing in the world. Ignorance is not freedom. It's stupid. It's just stupid. It's just all it is. Stupid is stupid. Like Forrest Gump said, paraphrasing. Go ahead.
Stupid is stupid. Okay.
Stupid is stupid does.
In more things that we wish we could change in the past, UK in action might have been what led the Wagner Group flourish. There's some MPs. This is from Patrick Wintour, the diplomatic editor at The Guardian. A decade-long failure by the British government has allowed the Wagner network to grow, spread its tentacles deep into Africa, and exploit vulnerable countries, according to a highly critical report from the UK's Foreign Affairs Select Committee. It called on the government to prescribe the Wagner Group in the UK and to make a far more concentrated effort to stop its using the City of London as a financial center. Wagner is a private mercenary army led by Yevgeny Prigozhin that has played a key role in the war in Ukraine. In June, Prigozhin and his troops staged a short-lived coup against the authorities in Moscow. The relation between Wagner leader and Vladimir Putin is currently unclear. Describing the overall UK approach to private military company as complacent, the report says that the UK has imposed sanctions on about half of the many members of the Wagner Group, as the US and the EU. The committee has given the Foreign Office a published list of 49 Wagner associates that it says the government should examine. Evidence given to the committee shows that Wagner not only had worked for Russia, but also, for instance, been active in Libya, in the service of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. An anonymized witness who had defected from the group said Wagner is involved in promoting the interests of the political elite of Russia, outside the countries of the former Soviet Union, and the implementation of large-scale business projects under intergovernmental agreements. No other Russian paramilitary structure operates in this way. Wagner has a complete monopoly in this field. The committee concluded, for nearly 10 years, the government has underplayed and underestimated the Wagner's network activities, as well as the security implications of its significant expansion. The government has not told us anything specific that has doing to challenge network's influence and impunity in countries other than Ukraine, beyond sanctions coordination, which itself appears limited. The report reveals that it took 6 weeks for the government to identify the lead department responsible for accounting Wagner. It described the Foreign Office Minister Leo Daughtry as unable to demonstrate joined-up working within the department, lesson sharing, strategic thinking, or a clear definition of what the Wagner network is. The committee said that Wagner Group was definitely operating in 7 countries and quite possibly 10 more. The 7 were Ukraine, Syria, Central African Republic, or CAR, Sudan, Libya, Mozambique, and Mali. Alicia Kearns, the chair of the committee, said, "We are deeply concerned by the government's dismissal or dismal lack of understanding of Wagner's hold beyond Europe, in particular their grip on African states. This is a fundamental failing of a joined-up government. Ministers appear to be in denial about the consequences of failing to tackle this malign business model before it takes hold. Where the West moves out Wagner moves in, seeing opportunity in suffering and profit in chaos. The UK must provide an alternative for countries that are struggling. Those who feel abandoned by the development of the world and see the Wagner Network as a provider of security, partnership with the Wagner Network is not just beneficial to the Russian government, it is a foreign policy goal of the Kremlin to force failing states to rely on the Wagner Network. I see. So, we destroy and destabilize Africa, we colonize it, and then we leave them out to deal with whatever problems we helped cause. And then Wagner said, hey, we can help you. Just vote for Russia. Whenever there's like a global thing happening, just say, well, Russian's my best friend. And then everything, I mean, that's why America does, to be honest. They also go to places and go, we're good people, look at us.
We don't hire mercenaries to go places. I mean, we do once we're there, but yeah.
But there's more in this article. It basically goes into great detail about what's been happening in Africa, specifically in Libya, Mali, Sudan, Kenya, Mozambique, just all of them. It's not just like Central Africa, which it is definitely Central Africa, but this like South, North, East, West, there's a bunch of African states who are getting politically, militarily, economically influenced by the Wagner Group in different significant ways that may or may not cause some problems in the future. Your story.
Wonder why it's not the Wagner Group, like, after the composer, the
No, it probably
Wagner,
is that, but I just say
the Valkyries. Dun, 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 dun. All right, now on to UPS, which is known as the United Parcel Service, one of America's biggest shippers, ends their strike. This is according to CNBC. Leslie Josephs reporting. UPS and the Teamsters Union, representing about 340,000 workers at the package carrier on Tuesday, said they reached a preliminary labor deal that includes raises for both full and part-time workers and narrowly avoids a potential strike that could have started next week. It was the latest in a string of labor deals that where workers, from pilots to aerospace manufacturing employees, have pushed for and won higher pay. The agreement is worth $30 billion, according to Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. The union went into this fight committed to winning for our members. We demanded the best contract in the history of the UPS, and we got it, he said in his statement. Existing part-time workers will get a raise to at least $21 an hour if workers approve the new contract, the union said. Part-time pay was a sticking point in negotiation. Full-time workers get an average of $49 an hour. Current workers will get $2.75 more an hour this year and $7.50 an hour more during the 5-year contract. And now I'm quitting my job to become a UPS driver. Thank you, bye. The deal will also end mandatory overtime on drivers' days off, according to an outline of the contract provided by the Teamsters. Together, we reached a win-win-win agreement in our issues that are important to Teamsters leadership, our employees, and to UPS and our customers. UPS CEO, M-O-U-S-E. Anyway, UPS CEO Carol Tomei, this agreement continues to reward UPS full and part-time employees with industry-leading pay and benefits while retaining the flexibility we need to stay competitive, serve our customers, keep our business strong. Workers still need to ratify the tentative deal. Whoever turns down a raise, I want to meet them. Anyway, Teamsters representatives, UPS employees voted to, I say UPS this time, UPS employees voted to authorize a strike after July 30th if the two sides, July 31st, if the two sides didn't reach an agreement. The labor stoppage could have rippled through the industries like retail that heavily relied on a package delivery giant. The National Retail Federation cheered the tentative agreement. UPS is a major partner with the retail industry, and we are grateful it came to an agreement with the Teamsters without disruption to the marketplace. Matthew Shea, CEO of the trade group, said in a statement. Retailers relied on stability within the supply chains, and this agreement will bring long-term stability as well as assurance for millions of businesses and employees who rely on smooth and efficient last-mile delivery. Some recent negotiations haven't yielded new contracts despite preliminary deals. On Monday, pilots at UPS's FedEx rival FedEx rejected a tentative labor deal with 57% voting against the agreement. So I guess one of the parts of the agreement was they get air conditioning in their trucks. I guess they've been driving without air conditioning.
That is
I don't know.
Because I know places that are so hot, and those trucks are giant aluminum cans.
And they're brown. Yeah. And yeah, they leave the door open all the time.
Yeah, I wonder why. They have no air conditioning in their trucks.
Yeah.
Kidding.
All right, man. That's the story.
All right. Well, good job. Another success in a successful worker strike. Just as the world's about to catch on fire and everyone's going to need air conditioning, let me tell you, because it's going to be very hot. In Wacky Wednesday news, innovative solar cycle path near Martinsdijk yields almost nothing. For a second year in a row, the yield from the solar cycle path at Martinsdijk is disappointing. The electricity yield of the path of solar panels that can be cycled over remains, just like a year ago, only at 26% of what was estimated. With this amount of energy, you can provide about 10 households with electricity. The idea was 40 households, says the Thijs ten Brink of the site. Give me a sec. Wat te duurzaam.nl at RTV Utrecht, so it's quite disappointing. The solar cycle path consists of 350 meters of solar panels cast in concrete slabs. Sun shines on the bike path and sustainable energy is generated on the way. As a cyclist, you don't have to do anything else, said Deputy Arne Daddeli at the opening in 2021. Now that is a name. That is a name. With your bike, you can drive on the solar cells. The coating of the cycle path has been sanded, so you cycle over a rough surface. Because the solar cells are incorporated in the cycle path, no one should be bothered by it. At the opening, the province assumed that the solar cycle path would generate approximately 137 milliwatt hours per year. In July 2022, that yield was already unfeasible. It got stuck at 36 milliwatts per hour, 27% of the estimate. A year later, the yield dropped even further to 26%. Maybe it's the batteries they're using, like the transfer. They need better cables. I don't know. There could be a transfer problem.
Not pointing them at the sun, maybe.
I mean, they're just flat, right? They're the ground. It is a guess as to why the yield is so disappointing. The first 6 months of 2022 were exceptionally sunny. This spring was gloomy and wet. The weather therefore seems to have little effect on the amount of electricity generated. Ten Brink specs another cause. Solar panels must be smooth and always slanted to catch as much sun as possible. Cycle paths are flat and must not slip. Otherwise, you slip on them. Obviously, a lot of dirt remains in them, and that blocks sunlight. It is possible that the solar cells deteriorate rapidly, Ken Brigg writes on his website. The efficiency of solar cells normally decreases about 0.6 to 0.7 per year, but in this case, it must have gone faster. Solar cycle path was built as a pilot project for 3 years, and will therefore be there until June next year. Then the province of Utrecht will decide whether there will be a follow-up. Earlier in 2018, a test was done with solar panels in a motorway. The project was stopped early because the solar panels were not resistant to heavy trucks and the cars that drove over them. For this reason, it was decided to switch to a trial with cycle paths. The path at Martinsdijk is known to be the longest solar panel cycle path in the world. In 2014, Romemeni had the first in North Holland with a solar cycle path of 70 meters. That was also a test, and the results of those have not been disclosed. So, I thought they created different... I thought they created bricks with solar panels in them, but maybe that was the previous test in 2014 that didn't go so well.
I don't think they're counting for heat loss caused by the ground.
Yeah, maybe.
Putting them on the ground because it generates infrared heat, and if the ground's absorbing a lot of the heat, it probably doesn't generate as much power. Just a thought. I don't know.
You would know more than me because I know nothing about it.
I'm just guessing. I'm not a solar panel engineer.
Electrician.
I know power is a measure of heat, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you're doing so. I mean, it's power of current times voltage, but it's always heat. And it always has to be heat synced when you generate a lot of power to prevent thermal runaway.
Yeah.
So if you're heat sinking a solar panel, are you not robbing for first potential to generate electricity?
Exactly. I
Just
don't even know that much.
All right, then.
Your next article.
In Wacky Wednesday news, well, you probably Otter surf somewhere else. This is from AP. Haven Daly and Olga R. Rodriguez two people write this story. Wildlife officials, this is in California, wildlife officials have been trying to capture a wayward sea otter that has been wrestling surfboards away from the surfers and aggressively approaching kayakers off the coast of Santa Cruz, California. A sea otter launched into a national spotlight. An image of her aggressively wrestling surfboards away from surfers off the coast of Santa Cruz, California, circulated on social media, building a fan club as she continues to evade capture. A team of wildlife experts with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and nearby Monterey Bay Aquarium have been trying to capture the 5-year-old animal known as Otter 847 since we didn't give her a cute name since last week because they say she poses a public safety risk. They say they want to examine her to relocate her at a zoo or aquarium as yet to no avail. Because, yeah, she'd be more happy somewhere else. I'm lost. She now has a growing fan club with people showing up every day to get a glimpse of her spending time sunbathing in a rocky shore, diving in the water, and chomping down on crabs. Jessica Fuji, sea otter program manager at Monterey Bay Aquarium, said the team was faced some challenges in the pursuit, including bad weather. The main issue is more just her ability to evade because this has been an ongoing effort. She is wary of those nets, Fuji said. Federal and state wildlife officials did not return messages from the Associated Press seeking comment Thursday on the effort to catch Otter 841. Otter 841. Boy, that's such an affectionate name. The mischievous mammal was made famous by a professional photographer who posted photos and videos of social media that show her aggressively approaching surfers and getting on top of their surfboards, at least on one occasion, biting and tearing chunks off the board. They can't throw a net over her in the water. They can't tranquilize her because of fear of her drowning, so they really need to get hands on her, said Santa Cruz photographer Mark Woodward. I don't think they need to do anything. They need to go to fuck home. How's that?
Get off the beach.
Yeah, how's that? It's her fucking house. She lives there. Leave her the fuck alone. They need my ass. Go surf somewhere else, the big ocean. Oh, well, there are tasty waves there. You don't understand. Tasty waves. Okay. The team trying to capture her has used a baited surfboard. She's got on it multiple times in the past few days. According to Woodward, but as soon as the wildlife official towing the surfboard carrying her gets near the team's boat, she dives off. Imagine that. She has a survival instinct. The otter's aggressive behavior is highly unusual and the reason is unknown. Maybe she doesn't like people? Aggressive behaviors of female southern sea otters may be associated with hormonal surges and due to being fed by humans.
Oh,
the
she's
U.S.
hysterical.
official.
Wow, now we're being
She's an
sexist against
hysterical
otters.
female. Hysterical hormonal female. That's what it is. Otter 841, which, you know what? When you don't have a real name, you tend to get a little irritated. Give her a real name. Maybe she'll chill the fuck out. And released into the wild in 2020. She was tagged with her number and has a radio transmitter that officials have been monitoring to keep. Maybe that fucking transmitter's pissing her off.
Giving her radio waves.
The whole damn thing is driving her nuts. You got a transmitter strapped to you. See how you act. Well, you do. You have a phone. Anyway, that said, it's not the first time the otter has been aggressive towards humans. She was observed approaching people in late 2021. In May 2022, she was spotted a pup at Santa Cruz area. 4 months later, exhibited similar aggressive behavior. Meanwhile, as her fans were never left alone. Just leave him alone. Just let him have fun. Hasn't bitten anybody. Roughs up the board like a dog with a chew, you know, said Jackie Rundle, a Santa Cruz resident who on Wednesday visited the bay. Southern sea otters' population dwindled to about 50 in 1938 are managed by the Fish and Wildlife Service, are listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act and protected under law and Marine Act and California law. Now, with a population of 3,000, sea otters play a fundamental role in maintaining healthy coastal ecosystems by preying on sea urchins that can multiply and eat their way through kelp forests. Both marine creatures share wildlife officials said. And in the other Wacky Wednesday story, they had this is also AP, this is published by, nobody wants to put their name on this one. Okay. This is Key West, Florida. And the old man and the cheese. On his 68th birthday, a white-bearded Wisconsin man won the Hemmingway Lookalike Contest, a highlighted Key West's annual Hemmingway Day celebration that ends that Sunday. It was probably this previous Sunday. Garrett Marshall, a retired television broadcast engineer from Madison, prevailed Saturday night at Sloppy Joe's Bar, a frequent hangout of Ernest Hemingway when he lived in Key West during the 1930s. This is the best birthday I've ever had, said Marshall, whose birthday falls just one day after the July 21st anniversary of Hemingway's birth. On his 11th attempt, he's done this 11 times, Marshall triumphed over nearly 140 other entrants in a contest that featured 2 preliminary rounds in Saturday's final. Competitors in sportsman's attire, most emulating the rugged Papa persona Hemingway adopted in his later years, paraded on stage at Sloppy Joe's before a judging panel of previous winners. Marshall said he shares several characteristics besides appearance with Hemingway and has written both nonfiction and short fiction. Like Hemingway, I have love of outdoors, I love fishing, one heck of a lot, he said, citing catches of walleye and northern pike in Wisconsin waters, as well as angling for tarpon in Florida Keys. He said, however, that he can't match the late author's tally of 4 marriages. I only have one wife, but that doesn't matter, that's all I need, said Marshall. As well as a contest and other festival events that lookalikes focused on raising scholarship funds for Key students. Hemingway Lookalike Society President David Douglas estimated that they amassed close to $125,000 during the 2023 festival. Hemingway Days salutes the vigorous lifestyle and literary legacy of the Nobel Prize-winning author who wrote enduring classics, including For Whom the Bell Tolls and To Have and Have Not, and also The Old Man and the Sea, which they did not reference, and I did, by the way, with the cheese reference. And there you go, Hemingway, with this beard, I think I could get in this contest. Cut my hair, right? Yeah. Get kind of relatively short, maybe shave in a bald pattern coming in. I'm looking at what these guys look like, but I got the beard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, your story.
Well, it sounds like to me like animals are starting to realize humans are not that big of a threat after all. And they're just like, wait a minute, they're big, but they're fucking idiots. Let me beat these guys up.
Plus you can't do anything to these otters. They're protected, so.
Yeah. Exactly.
You out there and just yelled at the otter, they'd probably go, here's a citation for yelling at the otters. But they're trying to move them. Leave them there. You went to all the trouble of putting them there. What the hell is the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, go ahead.
Okay, in culture news, Hollywood stars show themselves at large protest in New York. Leading American actors have expressed support for their striking colleagues. At a gathering in Times Square in the heart of New York, Hollywood stars Jessica Chastain, Bryan Cranston, and Brendan Fraser, among others, showed themselves. It was the largest demonstration of an actors' union SAG-AFTRA since the start of the strike 12 days ago. Then the actors joined the long-running strike of Hollywood screenwriters. It is the first time since 1960 that both unions have gone on strike. Several actors gave speeches at the action in New York. For example, Bryan Cranston, known for his hit series Breaking Bad, turned directly to Disney CEO Bob Iger, one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. I know you look at things differently, Cranston said. We don't expect you to know who we are, but we do ask that you listen to us, and that you hear that we don't let our jobs be taken away and given to robots. Cranston was referring to the concerns among actors that studios will create digital versions of them via artificial intelligence, then use them for films and series. The actors want more say in the area and clearer rules. They also act against the negative effect of the streaming services on their revenues. Our industry has changed extremely fast, even compared to a decade ago, and yet they are fighting us tooth and nail to stay in an outdated economic model. They want us to go back in time. Cranston. The party negotiating on behalf of the studios, the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, says there is now a generous offer on the table for the actors, including the largest minimum wage increase in 35 years. Like, have they not been getting wage increases this whole time? Probably. The parties are currently not negotiating with each other, so there's no prospect of a quick end to the strikes. Due to the strike, both the scriptwriters and actors, several major films, and several series productions have been affected either by problems or postponements. As for movies, for example, Marvel's Deadpool 3 has been shut down. Same goes for the blockbuster Gladiator 2. Why are they making a Gladiator 2? Is it like his children? Okay. Production was halted amid the shooting of a major scene, Variety wrote, because that's when the strike began. In the short term, popular late-night shows have been the hardest to hit. They have not seen an American TV. They have not been seen on American TV for months because they are without writers. So there you go.
Short
and also,
and
they're
sweet.
probably part of SAG-AFTRA. I have no idea, but if you want to get anything promoted these days, you can't go on a night show. You have to go on either like a news show, or you have to go on one of the random YouTube shows that
There's
do
80 million celebrities with podcasts,
improv.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go one of them 80 million celebrity podcasts. You get your word out.
Exactly. And
Of course, nobody has any projects to promote.
In the strike at all, as a YouTuber, if any YouTubers are watching this, their rules have basically outlined that as long as you're doing something that doesn't include writing and acting, go for it. So what we're doing right now is completely fine with the strike. We're not scabs. We're just improvising the news here, so that's it.
I consider this an audition for a future writing job, actually, because we do our own writing and we do our own improv. So there you go. We are the relief in the actors' strike. That's what we are, at least for a few people.
Okay.
Not that anybody's suffering. If you're suffering from the actors' strike, your life is easy. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I guess we're in this day in history.
Yep.
Okay, let me close my reading pane, otherwise I can't read this. All right, this day in history, July 26th, we had the following take place. We go way back, and we start at the farthest point in history. At 1775, the U.S. Postal Service was established by the Second Continental Congress and Benjamin Franklin. So the first Benjamins were postage stamps. He was the first postmaster general. 1894, English writer Aldous Huxley was born. He famously wrote The Brave New World. Also famously gave the Doors rock group their name because he came up with the phrase, what does it go? When the doors of perception are cleansed, we will see life as it really is, or something like that. And that blew Jim Morrison's mind. So that's how they got their name.
It blew his mind.
Not little trivia there. Aldous Huxley, I heard of him a long time ago when I was a child. Well, of course, Brave New World was a famous science fiction, futuristic, dystopian novel. 1943, Los Angeles.
It's one of the only books I've read in high school that I didn't care about, like, reading. Like, I cared about reading.
You didn't want to read it?
Usually you just do the Spark Notes, right, and you skip it, and you're like, oh, give me the synopsis, right? Brave New World I actually read, completely read. So.
Cool. But that's why the good Lord gave us audiobooks. All right. 1943, Los Angeles experienced its first major smog and hellish cloud descended upon the city. So happy birthday to smog. Limiting visibility to 3 blocks, the noxious fog was later blamed in part on exhaust from vehicles. And you've been smoggy ever since. 1943, U.S. President Harry S. Truman signed Executive Order 9981, which abolished racial segregation in the U.S. military. Thank you, Harry Truman. 1953, Fidel Castro attacked the Moncada military fortress in Santiago de Cuba and Although unsuccessful, the event later inspired the 26th of July movement, which was named after the 26th of July, which culminated in the overthrow of Batista's regime in Cuba. In 1956, the Italian passenger liner Andrea Doria sank after colliding with the Stockholm off the coast of Nantucket in the Atlantic Ocean. 51 people were killed. That kind of was filmed like on TV too, right? They were filming it going down and shit. I wasn't there, but I know because it was 1956, we had the technology to film this tragedy. 1964, American actress Sandra Bullock was born. 1965, the Republic of Maldives gained its independence from Britain. It's like one of those every day, isn't there? 1971, American photographer Diane Arbus, who is best known for her compelling, often disturbing portraits of people from the edges of society, died by suicide at the age of 48. So she was absorbing the depression from her subjects, apparently.
She had too much empathy, and she couldn't handle the suffering she was constantly documenting.
Yeah, she was channeling the empathy properly, though. She was turning it into art, I think, and I just don't know why, 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law by George Herbert Walker Bush. The legislation provides civil rights protection to individuals with physical and mental disabilities and guaranteed them equal opportunity in public accommodations, employment, transportation, state and local government services, and telecommunications.
And that's why there's ramps everywhere.
Yep, rampy. But we've been ramping up literally since 1990. In 2004, in reference to the explosion of violence in Darfur region, the European Union advanced that the United Nations institute economic sanctions against Sudan. Let's make them poorer. 2016, at the Democratic National Convention, Hillary Clinton was officially nominated president, becoming the first woman to top the presidential ticket of a major party in the United States, and she actually won the election and the popular vote, but we get stuck with Chuckles the Clown. 2020, American actress Olivia de Havilland, who won Academy Award for her performances of Each His Own and Heiress, died at the age of 104. Olivia de Havilland was also in Gone with the Wind.
Damn.
Yeah. And a featured event, 1956, Suez Canal seized. In this day, in 1956, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser seized control of the Suez Canal and nationalized it, sparking a crisis that later resulted in French, British, and Israeli forces briefly occupying parts of Egypt. What are you doing, Egypt? You can't have your own canal! We need to control that! And we already covered Sandra Bullock's birthday. It is John Howard, Prime Minister of Australia's birthday. 83. Wow. Well, I don't know if he's still Prime Minister. Do you know who the Prime Minister of Australia is?
No.
Okay.
Is it a woman, maybe?
Might be. I know New Zealand it was. All right, we covered Sandra Bullock's birthday. Kevin Spacey's birthday today, currently on trial. 1945, Helen Mirren was born. 1928, Stanley Kubrick, American director, Space Odyssey, and Clockwork Orange, among other. Oh, The Shining. Ooh. 1928. I'm just listing them off the top of my head. They're not listed here. 1894, Aldous Huxley. We covered that. And what day is it? What day is it today? Well, it is National Bagel Fest Day. You can't just have one bagel. You have to party with them. National Aunt and Uncle's Day. So if you have an aunt and uncle, which I'm pretty sure everybody does, or you are an aunt and uncle, which most people are, even by marriage sometimes, right? It's your day. It's basically everybody's day who isn't a child. And even children are aunts and uncles. So yeah, it's basically everybody's day. Unless you were just born, it's your day. And if you are just born, it's your birthday. So there, it is your day. National All or Nothing Day. Similar to Aunt and Uncle's Day. Very similar. National Coffee Milkshake Day. And that is it. So, buy your...
A short day.
Yeah, well, it's as long as the rest of them, I hope.
Okay, well...
It's Wacky Wednesday. As wacky as they get.
Okay, well, the Prime Minister of Australia is Anthony Albanese, so here you go.
It wasn't John Howard?
No, it wasn't. Okay. It was
Guy
at
with
some
two
point.
first names? John
Yeah.
Howard? How about Howard John?
Okay. Anyways, that has been me, Allie, from the Netherlands, hoping that we don't get a blanket of smoke rising up anywhere. And hopefully it rains a lot in the south and they can stop being on fire. Though at this point, I don't know if the rain will help, but we'll see. But I think the land is dry, which is why the fires are so fast. And I guess I'll go get a coffee milkshake, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This is Roger working on his Hemmingway beard. Although, I don't know if I want to go to Key West on July 26th. On today, July 26th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.